चक्षुरोन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामी निति नामिने। नमस्ते सारस्वतीदेवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। Hare Krishna, so welcome everyone. We are continuing our discussion from Srimad Bhagvatam. We are on Canto 4. We are on the chapter 20,
26.
26th chapter. Okay, we have completed 13 verses.
Yes.
Okay. So in this section, we are hearing Prachina Barhi as Narad Muni is describing a story of Puranjan to King Prachina Barhi. And through the story of Prachina Barhi, Narad Muni wants to make Prachina Barhi detached from the material entanglement because he was so very entangled in family, in karma kandi affairs. And Narad Muni wanted to make him detached from the karma kandiya yagya and wanted to make him a devotee of the Lord. So he is telling this story. So in the previous chapter, he described the story of Puranjan who goes to find a city which is suitable for his living. In that, he compared this body to the city of 9 gates. After describing, and in that story, we heard this Puranjan who is actually materially minded, Kshatriya conditioned soul. He wants to enjoy, he wants to lord it over material nature. He's searching for a suitable kingdom. And he finds a city in the southern side of Himalayas. As he enters the city of 9 gates, he's moving in the garden and he finds a very beautiful lady. This lady is the materially contaminated, pious intelligence. He ultimately gets married to this lady, enjoys with her for a long time. He was completely captivated by this lady. Whatever she would do, he would follow. In this way, he was very happily staying in this city. Now, in this 26th chapter, we are hearing this Narad Muni creating another analogy of a chariot. And in this chapter, Narad Muni describes that sometimes the jiva gives up his dharmic intelligence and comes under influence of Rajogun or Tamogun. And that is what happens with this King Prachin, this Puranjan. He goes out to hunt. Leaving aside his wife, he goes out to hunt. So living entity sometimes gives up his married wife and tries to indulge in illicit affairs. After enjoying for a long time, he comes back to his proper intelligence that, oh, I have made a mistake. He tries to rectify, comes back, but we'll see how even though the person tries to come back to dharmic intelligence, it is not so easy to come back to dharmic intelligence. And that is what will be described in the further chapter of this 26th, further verses of 26th chapter. So we discussed till verse number 20, verse number 13. I'll just share the screen just a minute. Okay. So this Puranjan He came back to the palace. He took his bath. That means a living entity becomes purified of his contaminated consciousness and takes shelter of the scriptures, hears from the bona fide people, and ultimately comes back. This Puranjan, as we heard in the previous verses, he decorated himself with the ornaments and sandalwood pulp. That means, after honoring the sages, devotees, and wise men, he purified himself internally by hearing various instructions on dharma and knowledge. And then he remembered his intelligence fixed in dharma. He started searching for his wife. And although he is such elevated in his consciousness, but he's enamored by Cupid. So this indicates that the impressions of sinful life had left him. Enamored by Cupid means he became eager to find his young intelligence fixed in dharma in his previous state. So although the living entity gives up his sinful intelligence, tries to be fixed in dharmic intelligence, he's searching. But it is not so easy to be fixed in dharmic intelligence. Spiritually speaking, what does it mean? Because of disappearance of last traces of contamination due to committing some sin, though one desires one's previous intelligence in order to act according to dharma, it does not appear immediately. It is not so easy to come back in normal consciousness, dharmic intelligence. Okay, so he is searching for his wife. Antapuro striyo prichat vimana iva vedishat apiva kushalam rama seshwarinam yathapura. Translation.
At that time, King Puranjana was a little anxious and he inquired from the household woman, "My dear beautiful woman, are you and your mistress all very happy like before or not?"
Okay. So now he is asking all the mistress. So are you all happy now? So Prachina Bari is Vedishat. So Prabhupada writes, when a man becomes refreshed by association of devotees and awakens to Krishna consciousness, then ideal state is he should become fixed in Krishna consciousness because he's associating with devotees. The word Kushalam refers to that which is auspicious. One can make his home perfectly auspicious when he engages in devotional service to Lord Vishnu. When one engages in activities other than Vishnu, he is always filled with anxiety. Whatever we do in this material world, we are not conscious of Krishna, it will create anxiety. Bhukti mukti siddhi kami sakali ashant Krishna bhakta nishkam ateva shanta. Anything we do in this material world because they are done for our own sense gratification, they will surely give anxiety. Only if somebody is working for Krishna, serving Krishna, then whatever anxiety one may go through, even if they are serving Krishna, but that anxiety will bring them closer to spiritual, eternal life. Tomara sevaya dukkha hoye jata seyoto parama sukha. All the pains I am going through in your service, O my Lord, that is the source of my greatest joy. A man should consult his mind, its thinking, feeling, and willing processes, and decide how these processes should be utilized. So basically, Srila Prabhupada is focusing how one should always try to think of Krishna. That can make one always blissful and steady. So basically, this part of the chapter, Puranjan is trying to cajole his wife, trying to convince his wife, asking forgiveness. She's really angry because Puranjan left her. So that means it is really hard work to get dharmic intelligence. So he's asking all the other women of the palace. These women, they are the dharmic desires. So he's again and again cultivating these dharmic desires, trying to be fixed in dharmic intelligence. Prabhupada writes, if one always thinks of Krishna, feels how to serve him, wills how to execute the order of Krishna, it should be known that he has taken good instruction from his intelligence, which is called the mother. So thinks, feels, and wills. These are the activities of the mind: thinking, feeling, and willing. We have to ultimately use all these things, utilize all these faculties in Krishna's service. Think about Krishna, feel how to serve. I want to serve Krishna. How can I serve him better? Feel. And will. I will do it. I will serve Krishna. So if all these things are happening, that means good intelligence is working. Although the king was refreshed, he nonetheless inquired about his wife. So one should always consult his dharmic intelligence. That is what is mentioned here. He was consulting, thinking, and feeling how we could return to his steady, how he could return to his steady good consciousness. Because the mind may suggest so many different sense gratificatory things, Vishaya Bhoga. In this world, there are two types of rasa. Prabhupada writes in one purport. Vishaya Vishtha rasa, Satchidananda Krishna rasa. Vishaya Vishtha rasa means the rasa, the enjoyment which one gets by enjoying the sense objects of this world. They are like Vishtha, they are like stool. Very, very abominable, but still the mind is so very obsessed that mind always goes towards it. We have to go from this Vishaya Vishtha rasa to Satchidananda Krishna rasa. That is a journey we have to make in this spiritual life. And then ultimately one gets the higher pleasure. So he continues. न तथा एतरहि रोचन्ते गृहेषु गृहसम्पदः यदि न स्यात् गृहे माता पत्नी वा पतिदेवता व्यङ्गे रथ इव प्राज्ञ ओ नामासीत दीनवत्. Translation.
King Puranjana said, I do not understand why my household paraphernalia does not attract me as before. I think that if there is neither a mother nor devoted wife at home, the home is like a chariot without wheels. Where is the fool? Where is the fool who will sit down on such an unworkable chariot?
So these women who have appeared, who are these women? Chakravarti Thakur describes. The women of this house are the actions of the Antahakarana in their previous condition inclined to dharma. So Antahakarana means mind, intelligence, ego, and chitta. What are actions of these Antahakarana in dharmic state? That means the dharmic desires. So all these dharmic desires, they appear. And seeing these dharmic desires, Puranjan is thinking, if the actions of my intelligence remain steady, destroying my impressions, present impressions of sin, they can deliver me. I may have done something sinful, but now because I want dharmic intelligence to come back, and my desires are also dharmic. So I have hope that I'll be delivered from this sinful mentality. Thus, he is asking how they are. So he's saying, but you should become happy by enjoying material objects. What is the use of dharma? They may say, these women, they may say, okay, you came enjoying all these material desires. Now, why are you asking for dharma? You did all those sinful activities. Now, what is the use of asking for dharma now? So he's answering, the forbidden objects do not give pleasure. Anything sinful actually does not give pleasure. And therefore, he's saying, please help me to get my wife back. My dharmic desire should get my dharmic intelligence back, because I am desiring dharma, but my intelligence is not still fixed. The wife is intelligence endowed with dharma, and I want that dharma, dharmic intelligence. Prabhupada writes, Prabhupada quotes this beautiful verse by Chanakya Pandit. He says, because this Puranjan is mentioning, if there is neither a mother nor devoted wife at home, the home is like a chariot without wheels. What's the use of such home? So here, the wife is dharma and the mother is bhakti. So if dharmic wife is not there and devoted mother is not there, dharmic wife means dharmic intelligence, and mother is the devotional service. If these two things are not there in the life of a person, his life is useless. Dharma is not there, bhakti is not there, then it is a useless life. Mata yasya grihe nasti bharya vicha apriyavadini aranyam tena gantavyam yatharanyam yatha griham. If a person doesn't have a mother or a pleasing wife, if the wife doesn't speak sweet words, bharya apriyavadini, if mother is not there and wife is also not speaking good words, what is the use of staying in the home then? Aranyam tena gantavyam. Better go to forest, because for him there is no difference between forest and the home. Prabhupada writes, real mother is devotional service, and real wife is the wife who helps her husband execute religious principles in devotional service. These two things are required for a happy home. Just a minute. So that's how Prabhupada describes in the purport that in the house, in the home, a person should have a devoted wife and a dharmic wife and a devoted mother. Then he can be happy. See, unless one has dharmic intelligence and unless he renders devotional service, his his home, it can never be pleasing to a saintly person. Prabhupada writes, Lord Chaitanya had both a good mother and a pleasing wife, and he was happy at his home. Nevertheless, he renounced the world for the welfare of entire humanity. He renounced his mother and wife. Although he had a very good wife, very devoted wife, and a great devoted mother, still he left home. In other words, it is essential that one have both a good mother and wife in order to become perfectly happy at home. Otherwise, home life has no meaning. Unless one is religiously guided by intelligence and renders devotional service, his home can never become very pleasing to a saintly person. So a saintly person will never go to a home where there is no devotional service going on, and if the wife is not very submissive or devoted. So that's how it is. In the Vedic culture, women is supposed to be the energy of the man. And it is there in the history that behind every great man, there is either a mother or a wife. So in the Western world, the Western model is make women the great good leaders. Good leaders. Okay, the women should also become leaders. But Vedic model is Women should not just become good leaders, they should become great leaders. Who is a great leader? One time Radhanath Swami Maharaj was telling, and many great leaders, they also say, the great leader is one who makes good leaders or other great leaders. So that was the culture in the Vedic times, where the women of the society, they would train the children to become great leaders, and they were themselves great leaders. So that's how it is described here. That if the mother is not there who is a devotee, and if wife is not there who is a devoted wife, dharmic wife, what's the use of staying in the family? He continues. Tvavartet salalna salalna majjantam vyasanarnave yamam udharate pragyam deepayanti pade pade.
Kindly let me know the whereabouts of that beautiful woman who always saves me when I am drowning in the ocean of danger. By giving me good intelligence at every step, she always saves me.
Ko vartate salalana, let me know about the whereabouts of that beautiful woman, Majjantam Vyasanarnave, when I am drowning in the ocean of danger. Yamam Uddharate Pragya, who always saves me by Pragya, by good intelligence. Deepayanti Pade Pade, every step she saves me. So it is a good intelligence which saves the person. Prabhupada writes a very wonderful purport. He says, there is no difference between a good wife and good intelligence. One who possesses good intelligence can deliberate properly and save himself from many dangerous conditions. Good intelligence is must. And the best intelligence is to serve Krishna. That can only save one from the greatest of the danger. Padam padam yad vipadam. Esha te abhita sankhye buddhi yoge tumam shunu buddhya yukto yaya partha karma bandhan prahasiti. Krishna says in second chapter Bhagavad Gita, what is that intelligence by which one can destroy all the karma bandhan, which can take one across the ocean of material world, which can save one from the greatest danger? What is the greatest danger? To again fall down in the cycle of birth and death. That is a good intelligence. That intelligence saves one from again and again going on in the cycle of birth and death. Prabhupada writes, good intelligence means becoming Krishna conscious. Krishna ye bhaje se bada chatur. Only an intelligent person will worship Krishna. Is that? Only an intelligent person will worship Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Krishna Varnam Tusha Krishnam Sango Pangastra Parshanam Parshadam Yagyai Sankirtana Praya Yajanti Hi Sumedhasaha. Only an intelligent person will take to Krishna consciousness. Not everybody will take to bhakti. Prabhupada writes, Puranjan was searching after his good wife, who always helped him out of the dangerous situations. So a real wife is Dharma Patni. Dharma Patni means women accepted in marriage by ritualistic ceremony. Children born of Dharma Patni inherit the property of mother. But children born of a woman who is not properly married do not inherit the property of the father. So Dharmapatni means chaste wife. A chaste wife is one who never had any connection with men before her marriage. Once a woman is given the freedom to mingle with all kinds of men in her youth, it is very difficult for her to be chaste. That's how Prabhupada describes the chastity of women, how it is so very important to maintain good society, to give birth to children with proper consciousness. That was the fear of Arjun. Who will protect the women of the society if the men are killed? Varna Sankar population will be born because the women will be exploited. So Prabhupada describes about that. So as Puranjan is asking all these ladies, they start answering. Rama Uchuhu Naranathan Janima Tvatpriyayad Bevasyati Bhutale Niravastare Shayanam Pashya Shatruhan.
All the women addressed the king.
O master of the citizens, we do not know why your dear wife has taken on his this sort of existence. O killer of enemies, kindly look. She is
Lying on the
lying on the ground without bedding. We cannot understand why she is acting this way.
Narnatha, O master of the citizens, na janima. We do not know. Tvatpriyayad Bevasyati. Why your wife is behaving like this? We don't know. Bhutale Niravastare. She is lying on the ground without any bedding. Niravastare. And we don't know why she's acting in this way. Just see. So Chakravarti Thakur describes his heart is her flower bed. She has given that up. The intelligent endowed with dharma is lying on the ground. Dharmic intelligence takes shelter of the heart. That's where dharmic intelligence lies down. But because he left dharmic intelligence, the dharmic intelligence is not coming back. She is lying on the ground. That is the problem. So Prabhupada in the purport describes, again he focuses on the chaste wife. And before that he describes a person who doesn't have Krishna Bhakti, he naturally will take to sinful activities. And Puranjan, he left his home, neglected his wife, and that's why engaged in all the sinful activities, killing animals. Similarly, materialistic people, they do not care for the married wife. They indulge in illicit sex life and try to enjoy. Prabhupada writes, a person who does not have a chaste wife accepted by religious principles always has bewildered intelligence. The wife of King Puranjan was lying on the ground because she was neglected by her husband. Actually, the woman must always be protected by the husband. Because Puranjan left her husband, now she is lying on the ground. Puranjan left his wife, so she is lying on the ground. We always speak of the goddess of fortune as being placed on the chest of Narayan. So wife should always be protected by the husband. So entire purport Prabhupada devotes to that. How wife is the better half, Ardhangini. So she should always be protected. Prabhupada writes that. Ardhangini, half of the body. One cannot remain with only one leg, one hand, one side of the body. He must have two sides. Therefore, according to nature's way, husband and wife should live together. And how they can live together, there may be so many differences of opinion, so many differences of nature. But when Krishna is in the center, all the differences get reconciled. One accepts all the differences because Krishna is in the center. We are not there to enjoy and indulge. We are there to serve. So for that purpose, we'll stay together, even if there are differences of opinion. Home should be a place for devotional service, and wife should be chaste and accepted by a ritualistic ceremony. Okay. So that's how Narad Muni, he continues the story. Narada uvacha Puranjana mahishim rikshavadhutam bhuvi tatsangonmathida jnano vaiklavyam paramam yayo.
The great sage Narada continued, My dear King Prachin Barahi, as soon as King Puranjana saw his queen lying on the ground, appearing like a mendicant,
He immediately became bewildered.
So now ultimately he found his wife. She was lying on the ground. He was told by all the ladies that, look, your wife is lying on the ground. So ultimately, the dharmic desires, they direct one to the dharmic intelligence, and then the person realizes my dharmic intelligence is not at my heart. She is on the ground because I left her. So one becomes completely bewildered. Now, how to bring her back? How to pacify her? Queen was lying on the ground without bedding and proper dress. Puranjan became very much aggrieved. That means he repented, that he left his dharmic intelligence. He engaged in all the sinful activities. In other words, when one's good intelligence is neglected, he fully engages in sinful activities and becomes bewildered, and then roams around, wanders in the cycle of birth and death. Prabhupada Chakravarti Thakur writes, seeing that she was injured because of leaving his heart on her own, he thought, oh, I have committed a great offense. Being anxious to associate again with her, he deprecated his foolishness. He condemned himself. Oh, how can I do this? How can I give up my dharmic intelligence? And that's how a dharmic soul, if he indulges in some sinful activity because of some conditionings, he condemns. How can I do this? How can I give up all my dharmic activities? How can I give my devotional practices? Hari Hari Bifale Janam Guainu Manushya Janam Paiya Radha Krishna Na Bhajiya Janiya Shuniya Vishakhainu Santavyam Slakshnaya Vacha Hridayena Viduyata Prayasya Sneha Samrambha Lingam Matmaninabhyagat.
The king, with aggrieved mind, began to speak his wife with very pleasing words. Although he was filled with regret and tried to pacify her, he could not see any symptom of anger caused by love within the heart of his beloved wife.
So, by some good fortune, now this dharmic soul gets his dharmic intelligence, but still the dharmic intelligence is not in proper condition. He could not see in her anger caused by affection. So generally, the wife should become angry when the husband leaves and does something wrong. But here, interestingly, this Puranjan, he saw that the wife is not angry, and he is a little bit surprised. What is this? And he became more repentant, because I have such a wonderful wife who is not, she's not becoming angry also, even though I left her. So he became more repentant. Prabhupada writes, when a person regrets his sinful activities, the abandoning of Krishna consciousness and good intelligence, his path of deliverance from the path of material clutches is open. Repentance is must. It is natural to fall down in our conditioned state, but repentance is must. One should repent for the sinful activities and sincerely try to follow the regulative principles as much as possible with all heart and soul. When a devotee repents, all the accidental sins, they get burnt. The devotee doesn't suffer because of the sinful activities. if he is really repentant. And that's what Krishna expects from his devotees. Jate Shraddho Matkathasu Nirvinna Sarvakarmasu Veda Dukkhatmakan Kaman Parityagappanishwaraha Tato Bhajet Mam Prita Shraddhalu Drida Nishchayah Vishmanascha Tan Kaman Dukko Darkam Shagarhayan. 11th Canto, 20th chapter, 27-28. Krishna is telling to Uddhav, Uddhav, my devotee, his faith has risen in my pastimes. He knows sense gratification will give him misery, but still, parityago apyanishvara, he can't give it up. What he does? Tato bhajet mam prita, he still worships me with faith and determination, drid nishchaya, all the while repenting for his sinful activities. So repentance is must. That repentance purifies the devotee. Prabhupada writes, when a person loses Krishna consciousness, he engages in sinful activities, and then he has to experience defeat in his life. We have tried to become victorious in so many lives, but we have never become victorious. We have always experienced defeat. Prabhupada quotes this, Para bhavastavad bodha jato yavanna jigyasata atma tattvam. We are born defeated. It is not that we get defeated after we start endeavoring. No, we are already born defeated only. Because so many lifetimes we are defeated. Naturally, one who comes to Krishna consciousness regrets his previous sinful activities and tries to come out of it. So this king, he tries to flatter his good wife, tries to pacify her. Anuninye shanakair viro anunaya kovidaha pasparshay padayugalam aha chotsangalalitam.
Because the king was very expert in flattery, he began to pacify his queen very slowly. First he touched her 2 feet and then embraced her nicely, seating her on his lap, and began to speak as follows.
What he addressed? From today, I will no longer use my intelligence for enjoying sinfully. That is what the first thing he said. From today, I will not do anything sinful. I will never leave you again. What are the 2 feet? He caught hold of the feet of his wife. Her 2 feet represent giving up ahankar and respecting the devotees. So this Puranjan, he now gave up his egoistic mentality and he took shelter of the devotees. And he put her on his lap, means he embraced his dharmic intelligence to his heart. Prabhupada writes, one has to awaken to Krishna consciousness by first regretting his past deeds. That's what he did. He regretted. And then, just as Puranjan began to flatter his queen, one should, by deliberate consideration, raise himself to platform of Krishna consciousness. And to attain such an end, one must touch the lotus feet of spiritual master. Unless one takes shelter of the spiritual master, it is so very difficult to again get the dharmic intelligence and devotional intelligence. Devotional consciousness, it is must. And in this purport, Prabhupada writes one very, very powerful statement. He says, one must approach the spiritual master, touch his lotus feet. What it means to touch the lotus feet of spiritual master? Because we may say that, well, we are not getting a chance to touch the spiritual master's lotus feet. How can we touch the lotus feet of spiritual master?
Follow his instructions and follow his instructions, Prabhuji. And be submissive in listening to all his whatever he's saying. Listen to it submissively and follow whatever he says.
Okay, wonderful, wonderful. Thank you, Mataji. Here, Prabhupada writes something more. He says, one cannot come to the precincts of Krishna consciousness unless he touches the dust of the lotus feet of a person who has become Mahatma. This is the beginning of surrendering process. So surrendering process begins with touching the dust of the feet of the devotees. Okay, so what it means? By simply sincerely rendering service to Guru, one begins his spiritual life. Now he says very important line. Touching the lotus feet of spiritual master means giving up one's false prestige and unnecessarily puffed up position in the material world. So that is very interesting understanding of what it means to touch the lotus feet of spiritual master. That means I am nothing. Whatever I am in this material world, in my spiritual life, it is only by the mercy of my spiritual master. Somebody may have the false prestige that I was already a dharmic person, I deserved bhakti. But that is not the qualification to get bhakti. Touching the lotus feet of the spiritual master means to be humble enough to understand that I don't deserve this process of devotional service. It is given to me. Just like one devotee asked Prabhupada, Prabhupada, what was our qualification that we got this process of Krishna consciousness? Prabhupada said, you had no qualification. I made your qualification. So if somebody has this false prestige that I am something in material world, in spiritual life, I was dharmic only, I was about to become devotee, that will not help us. So one should give up the false prestige, unnecessarily puffed up position. Prabhupada continues, those who remain in the darkness of material existence due to their falsely prestigious position are called atheists. They do not know the ultimate cause of everything. They do not surrender. In other words, one cannot arouse Krishna consciousness simply by his own mental speculation. One has to surrender. It is must. Acharya, by worshipping and surrendering to the spiritual master, yasya prasadad bhagavad prasado, yasya prasadan nagati pitopi. Unless spiritual master shows mercy, we cannot get anything. All our endeavors, they cannot bring us closer to Krishna unless we receive the mercy of the spiritual master. Now, after this, Puranjan, he starts pacifying very, very nicely, speaking nice words, very, very gentle words, flattering. Puranjana uvacha, nunam te akrit punyaste bhritya yeshvishvara shubhe kritagasvatma satvitva siksha dandam nayunjate.
Like Puranjan said, my dear beautiful wife, when a master accepts a servant as his own man, but does not punish him for his offenses, the servant must be considered unfortunate.
So he says, dear wife, you became angry. That is the punishment you have given me. That is your mercy to teach this foolish servant who has committed offense. I will never give up in this life. So he is trying to pacify his wife, saying that you are angry, but you are not even speaking anything. You are not showing anger. And actually, your anger is your mercy. And he says, if a master does not punish his servant for offenses, that means the master actually considers servant as his own. So behind every punishment, there is a mood of punishment, there is a purpose of punishment. So he's saying The mood of punishment is to I love this person, that's why I'm punishing this person so that he may not or she may not make the same mistake. And purpose is to correct that person. So he is saying that you are showing mercy on me by becoming angry. Chakravarti Thakur writes, considering the servant to be dependent on him, the master does not punish the servant in order to teach him. That servant is unfortunate. If the master thinks, oh, why should I punish? That servant is not such a fortunate servant. Those who get punished are fortunate, because that servant will not make the same mistake again. If the master thinks, ठीक है, अभी इसको छोड़ देंगे, I'll not punish him. No, no, no. Oh, because he is dependent on me, why should I punish him? He'll make the same mistake again. That is not mercy. That is worst. Servant should be punished for some mistake. So you have punished me, so therefore I am feeling myself fortunate. What does it mean at spiritual level? A devotee thinks, though I am reformed now, it is difficult to bear the public criticism and dissatisfaction in my heart caused by those temporary sinful acts. The Supreme Lord has punished me to teach me. I will not give up proper intelligence again in this life. So that's how the devotee thinks, that the Lord has punished me and I also suffered infamy because of my sinful activity, because of my wrong actions. That is a mercy of the Lord. Otherwise, I would have done the same mistake again. It is a mercy of the Lord that He has put me in this situation. He has punished me. I deserved much more. Prabhupada writes, according to Vedic civilization, domestic animals and servants are treated exactly like one's own children. They are sometimes punished not out of vengeance, but out of love. A master punishes a servant out of love to correct him, to bring him to a right point. And Prabhupada makes a very important statement. When a person is punished by the laws of nature, by the will of God, he should not be disturbed. A real devotee thinks in this way. What is the thought process of a devotee? Tattedu kampam susamikshmano bhunjano evatmakritam vipakam Ridvagvapurabhairavitadhan namaste jive tayo mukti pade sadaya bhak. I deserved much more. Krishna has given me very little. So a devotee, if he is punished, he should be grateful that I made a mistake and I am punished. It is not fortunate that अरे punishment नहीं मिला बच गए. अगर बच गए ना, so will not get the import of the sinful activity, what we have done. We'll think ठीक है बच गए ना, then दोबारा करेंगे. But if we are punished, then we will never do it. In fact, Bali Maharaj also speaks the same to Vamanadev. He says, it is so very fortunate that you have punished me. He says that actually devatas are unfortunate because you gave them opulence and they forgot you. You gave them opulence, you gave them kingdom, they forgot you. But you have taken everything away from us so that we can remember you. It is your mercy on us. Pumsam shlagyatamam manye dandam arhatamarpitam yamnamata pita bhrata suridascha santihi. He says in the past, many subordinates have punished their, many superiors have punished their subordinates. Mata, Pita, Bhrata, Surida. Parents, they may have punished their sons. Guru may have punished the disciple, but nobody has punished the way you have punished me. You have given me the highest punishment. You have taken away everything from me, and you have humiliated me also in front of everyone. Nobody can punish like you have punished. You are the supreme personality of punishment. You have given the greatest punishment. But in your punishment, there is mercy. Pumsam shlaghyatamam manye. Shlaghya means it is my great fortune because you have punished me. So that is how a devotee feels. Punishment given by the Lord is the fortune. He continues. Paramo anugraho dando bhritteshu prabhunarpitaha balo naveda tanvi bandhu krityam amarshanaha.
My dear slender maiden, when your master chastises his servant, the servant should accept this as great mercy. One who becomes angry must be very foolish not to know that such is the duty of his friend.
So if somebody becomes angry because he's punished, that means he's a fool. Should never ever even correct a fool. Upadesho hi murkhanam prakopaya na shantaye. When a fool is instructed, he becomes angry. Why you are telling me? I am so learned. He becomes angry on the person who desires welfare for him. So he says, I am not angry on you. I am very happy that you have punished me. Prabhupada writes, when a foolish person is instructed in something nice, he generally cannot accept. He becomes angry. Why? Upadesho hi murkhanam prakopaya na shantai. When a serpent is fed milk and bananas, he becomes more poisonous. Instead of becoming sober and merciful, his poison increases. Similarly, when a fool is instructed, he becomes angry. So, a devotee speaks internally to good intelligence. I have given up good intelligence and now I am repenting. That is my punishment given by you. It is highest mercy to me. I will not do anything sinful again. So that is the punishment. It is so very difficult to come back to original dharmic intelligence. Now somehow I came back. Now I will never do it. I understood what is the great difficulty to come back to dharmic intelligence after indulging in sinful activities. He continues to pacify his wife. Sat Sattvam mukham sudati subhro anuraga bhara vrida vilambali vilasat bhasitavalokam neelalakaalibhir upaskritam unnasamna swanam pradarshaya manasvini valgu vakyam.
Hare
Translation.
Krishna. My
My
dear
dear-
Bhai, your teeth are very beautifully set, and your attractive features make you appear very thoughtful. Kindly give your anger and be merciful upon me, and please smile upon me with loving attachment. When I see a smile on your beautiful face, and when I see your hair, which is as beautiful as the color blue, and see your raised nose and hear your sweet talk, you will become more beautiful to me and thus attract me and oblige me. You are my most respected mistress. Hare Krishna.
So devotee, he is praying to the Lord. That is certainly my previous intelligence. This is my devotional intelligence. It has come back. Dharmic intelligence. So she should become favorable and steady now. So Prabhupada describes the dangers of attraction to the beauty of this world, beauty of the opposite gender. Prabhupada tells the story of the liquid beauty in this purport. And then Prabhupada writes, King Puranjan begged his queen to return to his original beauty. He tried to revive her just as a living entity tries to revive his original consciousness, Krishna consciousness, which is very beautiful. All the beautiful features of queen could be compared to beautiful features of Krishna consciousness. So when a devotee, when a living entity comes to Krishna consciousness, he actually becomes beautiful. He becomes full of wonderful qualities. Yasyasya bhakti bhagavati akinchana sarvai gunaiस्तत्र samasate suraha. Titikshava karunika suridas sarvadehina majat kshatrava shantas sadhavas sadhubhushanam. He becomes decorated with so many wonderful good qualities. He continues. Tasmin dadedaham aham tava veer patni yonyatra bhusharabkulat kritakil vishastam pashyena vita bhayam unmuditam trilokyam anyatra vay murapiripo pitaratra dasat.
O hero's wife, kindly tell me if someone has offended to you. I am prepared to give such a person punishment as long as he does not belong to the Brahmana caste. But for the servant of Muraripu, Krishna, I excuse no one within or beyond these three worlds. No one can freely move or after offending you, for I am prepared to punish.
So he's saying, I can punish anyone but a Brahman or a Vaishnava. He says, I am begging forgiveness from you. Please tell me if anybody, is there anyone else who has offended you? Oh, wife of a hero, you are a wife of a king. I will punish whoever has offended you because I belong to you. But I have no power over Brahmanas or the devotees of Vishnu. So this Puranjan is actually Prachina Bari. Story of Prachina Bari is only described by Narad Muni, who would not break the rules established by his father or great or grandfather. So because Prithu Maharaj, he also told, the rule was he could challenge everyone but Brahmanas and Vaishnavas. So he's also telling the same, I can challenge everyone, I can punish anyone except Brahmanas and Vaishnavas. So that is how Narad Muni is very nicely making the exact story so that Prachina Bari can relate to this story. Okay. So now, what is the spiritual meaning of this? Spiritual meaning is, if I have faults because of old impressions or committing sin, I will perform charity, vow, pious acts to atone for the faults. But if an obstacle has arisen from the anger of a Brahmana or a Vaishnava, that is very difficult to remove. So basically, a living entity, this Puranjan understands that, any sinful activity done can be purified by rituals and atonement and doing the dharmic, things, dharmic rituals. But if somebody offends Brahmanas and the Vaishnavas, that is very difficult to atone. Then it is very difficult to bring the dharmic intelligence back. So therefore, these two are very, very powerful. Offense to the Brahmanas and offense to Vaishnavas. That's why Rahugana Maharaj, we heard in the 5th canto, we'll hear in the 5th canto, that when he met Jada Bharat, and after this whole episode, he ultimately understood that Jada Bharat is not an ordinary personality, he's a great Brahmana, it seems. He says, Naham Vishanke Suraraj Vajram Natyarsha Shulan Nayamasya Dandad Nagni Nasoma Nilavitta Pastrat Shanke Bhrisham Brahma Kula Avamanat. I do not fear anyone except Brahmana, curse of a Brahmana. So he's also saying, Except for offenses to Brahmanas and Vaishnavas, I can make atonement to anything else. What is the relief from these two offenses? Their mercy. The only relief from offending these two is their mercy and nothing else. He speaks with pride at being able to uproot irreligion. He says, I can destroy, I can punish, I can handle all the irreligious activities, I will do all the atonement, but if Brahmanas and Vaishnavas are in picture, then I can't do anything. That's how grave this Vaishnava Aparadha is. Ordinary sin, it is like dhulile. It is like something written on the sand. It can be erased very quickly. But Vaishnava Aparadha, it is like vajralep, writing on the stones. It cannot be erased easily. Prabhupada writes, upon breaking the law of state, everyone can be punished by the government except Brahmanas and the Vaishnavas. Why? Because generally, Brahmanas and Vaishnavas, they never transgress the laws of nature. It is not that they have the license to do anything and everything and they'll not be punished. No, it was the fact that they will never break any principles. And even though they sometimes appear to violate the laws, they are not punished by the king. They are punished directly by the Lord in due course of time. So therefore, Narad Muni is reminding Prachina Bari of his forefather that Prithu Maharaj never chastised Brahmana and the Vaishnavas. Once pure intelligence or Krishna consciousness becomes polluted by material activities, pure consciousness can be revived by sacrifice, charity, pious activities. But if somebody offends Vaishnavas and Brahmanas, it is very difficult to revive Krishna consciousness. Prabhupada gives the example of Durvasa Muni, who offended Ambarish Maharaj. Conclusion is that if Krishna consciousness is covered by material sins, one can eliminate the sins simply by chanting Hare Krishna. But if one pollutes his Krishna consciousness by offending a Brahmana or a Vaishnava, there is no atonement unless the Vaishnava forgives. That is power of Vaishnava Aparadha. He continues, Vaktram na tevi tilikam malinam viharsham samramba bhimam avimrishtam apetaragam pashe sanavapi suchopahatau sujatau bimbadharam vigata umkam pankaragam.
My dear wife, until this day, I have never seen your face without tilaka decorations, nor have I seen you so morose and without luster or affection. Nor have I seen your two nice breasts wet with tears from your eyes. Nor I have ever before seen your lips, which are ordinarily as red as the bimba fruit, without their reddish hue.
Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur describes in one of his books, I think Jaiva Dharma, there are 5 stages in nullification of anarthas. How our anarthas they go? There are 4 types of anarthas which trouble us. Dushkrit Uttha Anartha, Sukrit Uttha Anartha, Bhakti Uttha Anartha, Aparadha Uttha Anartha. I think he writes that in Madhurya Kadapini. Dushkrit Uttha Anartha are those anarthas which arise because of past life sinful activities. Sukrit Uttha Anartha are the anarthas which arise because of past life pious activities. What are those? Dushkrit Uttha Anarthas are lust, anger, greed, pride, and illusion. Sukrit Uttha Anarthas are desire for pious enjoyment. Aparadha uttha anarthas are all the anarthas we do while worshipping the deities, while chanting the names of the Lord, and while dealing with the Vaishnavas. Namaprad, Sevaprad, Vaishnavaprad. And there are some Bhakti Uttha anarthas also. That means those anarthas which come by the practice of bhakti. What are they? Name, fame, prestige, profit, adoration, distinction. They are the anarthas which come by the practice of bhakti. They are not the result of bhakti, but they are result of our good practice of bhakti, which is given to us as the mercy of the Lord, but because of our conditionings, they become anarthas, they become obstacles. When these anarthas are purified, this dushkritutha anarthas, they almost get purified. There are 5 stages of purification of anarthas. Ekadeshavartini, Bahudeshavartini, Prayiki, Purna, Atyantiki. I'll just share something that you can get this proper understanding of what is being discussed. Just a minute. Okay. So as you can see, there are 5 stages in nullification of anarthas. How the anarthas are purified. So, Ekadesha Vartini means some part is purified. Bahudesh means most of it is purified. Praiki, almost pure. Purna, almost completely pure. But still there is something remaining. And last is Atyantiki, when there is no trace of this anartha remaining. So as you can see in this, there are 9 stages of bhakti: Adav Shraddha, Sadhu Sangha, Bhajana Kriya, Anartha Nivritti, Nishtha, Asakti, Ruchi, Bhava, Prem. So for Dushkrit Uttha Anarthas to get purified, Dushkrit Uttha, Sukrit Uttha, and Bhakti Uttha Anartha, the bhajana kriya process is sufficient to actually do prayiki purification. Prayiki means they almost get purified. As we hear this very famous verse, Nashta prayeshu abhadreshu. Prayiki means almost complete. So these 3 anarthas, they get almost purified during this bhajana kriya. They get completely purified, purna. At the stage of nishtha, they are almost gone. Whatever traces are remaining, this dushkritutha and sukritutha anarthas are completely gone at the stage of asakti. And this bhakti uttha anarthas are completely gone at the stage of ruchi. Nishtha, ruchi, asakti. So that means this dushkrit and sukrit, they keep troubling even at the stage of ruchi. Desire for lust, anger, greed, all these things will keep troubling even at the stage of ruchi. Till the time asakti is there, they will keep troubling us. Traces. But the most difficult to go and the slowest to go is the aparadha uttha anartha. When we offend devotees, when we offend the holy names, when we offend the deities in seva, the process of bhajana kriya purifies it very little bit. Anarthas, offenses, they keep on happening. At the stage of nishtha, they get purified sufficiently. But bhava stage also does prior ki purification, not complete prior. Bhava stage doesn't also purify one completely of these aparadha arthas. Even prema doesn't purify this completely. So when one gets purified completely, when one becomes associate of the Lord. So that's the gradation. That's the hierarchy. That's the, progress. Okay. So this Puranjan, he is trying to convince and pacify his wife. And Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur writes, how a devotee, he is very, very fearful of offending a Vaishnava or a Brahmana, because the result of these, they stay on for long. Even prema doesn't purify it fully. It gets purna, but it is not atyantiki. Atyantiki happens only when it becomes associate of the Lord. He continues. In this verse, he says, I have never seen you without any decorations. That is my misfortune, that I am seeing you without any decoration. Tanme prasida suridakrit kilvishasya swairam gatasya mrigayam vyasanaturasya tadevaram vashagatam kusumastra vega visrastapam snam ushatina bhajeta kritye.
My dear queen, due to my sinful desires, I went to the forest to hunt without asking you. Therefore, I must admit that I have offended you. Nonetheless, thinking of me as your most intimate subordinate, you should still be very much pleased with me. Factually, I am very much bereaved, but being pierced by the arrow of Cupid, I'm feeling very lusty. But where is the beautiful woman who would give up her lusty husband and refuse to unite with him?
So he's trying to convince and pacify his wife, and speaking in so many wonderful ways just to convince and pacify her. And Prabhupada describes how this is the basic principle of material existence. Both man and women desire one another. That is the basic principle of material existence. And Prabhupada focuses his entire chapter on entire purport on Yanmaithunadi Grihamedi Sukhamitucham. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur writes, I am uncontrollable, having committed sin by going hunting and killing. Hunting and committing sin are equivalent. Good intelligence should be situated with him. He expresses this principle by this particular question. Just as a woman does not give up her lover who has done wrong, so intelligence should not give me up. Please do not give me up, oh my good intelligence. The lover may do some wrong. So therefore, you have to really be very, very careful not to indulge in sinful activity, not to indulge in anything which is not supposed to be done, because to get peaceful dharmic intelligence, it is not so easy. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Yesham tvantagatam papam jananam punya karmanam te dvandva moha nirmukta bhajante mam dridhavrata. It is very difficult to practice bhakti with determination if one lives a sinful life. We may not get affected like materialistic people, but it will be very, very difficult to practice Krishna consciousness steadily, because sinful mind cannot practice Krishna consciousness steadily. Of course, we will be punished by Krishna in a different way, but we will become really disturbed to practice bhakti steadily. So that is what is emphasized in this chapter. So many endeavors he's doing to get his wife again back, get the affection and attention of his wife. Okay, so in this way, ultimately, his wife, she was pacified. She started staying with him properly. And then time passed by. 27th chapter is another very, very wonderful, interesting chapter. What happened in due course of time? So this Puranjan, his intelligence is now properly situated. He performs so many pious activities. He is still not devotee. He is doing only pious activities, dharmic intelligence. It is not a devoted intelligence yet. It is dharmic intelligence. तो बेचारा क्या करेगा? वो पार्टी करेगा. And time is passing by. In due course of time, he becomes old. Now, to describe the old age, Narad Muni weaves another story. In due course of time, what happened? Narada Uvacha Itham Puranjanam Satyak Vishamani Yad Vibramai Puranjani Maharaja Reme Ramayati Patim.
The great sage Narada continues, My dear king, after bewildering her husband in different ways and bringing him under her control, the wife of King Puranjana gave him all satisfaction and enjoyed sex life with him.
Okay. So now Puranjan is enjoying with his wife, and Prabhupada writes, first we'll see Chakravarti Thakur. He says, Dharmic Jiva, encountering some obstacles, becomes contaminated internally by various sins. He then regains his intelligence and performs charity, vows, and atonement. However, because the contamination does not leave the mind, he becomes torn apart by constant regret. Again, he attains proper intelligence. So this was described so far. Now, in this chapter, we'll see he starts living dharmically and he becomes completely controlled by his dharmic intelligence. That means he is doing all wonderful pious activities, enjoying with his wife in a pious way. Prabhupada writes how a sinful life can be counteracted by yajna, vrata, and dan. In this way, one can become free from sinful life and at the same time awaken to original Krishna consciousness. But this original Krishna consciousness doesn't come automatically. Pious life doesn't guarantee one a devoted life. When a when a follower of the Veda, worshipper of the demigods, when he will become a devotee of Krishna? Any thoughts?
When all the karma purifies him, all the rituals purify him, and then he realizes that there is more to spirituality than just doing karma for fruitive results. The chanting and all those ceremonies will eventually purify him, and then he will start asking, is there more? Or if he comes in touch with the devotee, then of course that is immediate.
Okay. Yes, others? Raghunandan Ram Prabhu? Okay, Prabhuji is not there, it seems. Ratikali Mataji? Okay, so those devotees who are not answering, I'm just removing them so that next time they are present.
Krishna.
Okay. Yes, Sharda Prasad Prabhu.
दंडवत प्रणाम. सुना यही है. That is what atonement, then yajna and dana. All this, if he performs, then he becomes purified. Once he becomes purified, he comes back to, it's not exactly original, but it's near to the Krishna consciousness. That is what my thinking, my realization.
Okay, thank you. So yes, as everyone said the same thing, unless one comes in touch with devotees, they will never come to Krishna consciousness. एतावानेव यजताम इह निःश्रेयसोदयः भगवती अचलो भावो यद भागवत संगतः. First, second canto, third chapter. Shukdev Goswami, when Parikshit Maharaj asks this question, that all these Devata worshippers, when they'll become devotee of Krishna, so Shukdev Goswami says it doesn't happen automatically. Yad Bhagavata Sangataha. Only when they come in association of devotees, then they will become devotee of Krishna. So this pious life, one can continue pious life without becoming devotee of Krishna. That is what has happened with Puranjan. This Puranjan, he lived his whole life enjoying in pious way, but he never came in association of devotees. But because he was pious, what happened was, he may have served some devotees, and that generated some sukriti. And as a result of that, in the next life, we will see, I think in the next chapter, Puranjan becomes a woman. In that life, he gets a pious, a devoted husband. He'll get a devotee husband. He becomes a lady and he gets a devoted husband. Devotee husband, not devoted husband. दोनों में अंतर है. Devoted husband and devotee husband. Okay, ठीक है. So Prabhupada writes, by coming home, taking his bath, eating nice foodstuffs, getting refreshed, and searching out his wife, Puranjan came to his good consciousness in his family life. ठीक है. He lived his sinless life. However, he says, if husband-wife combine together in Krishna consciousness and live together peacefully, that is very nice. However, if a husband becomes too much attracted to his wife and forgets his duty in his life, implications of materialistic life will become, and vice versa. It is not one way, it is both ways. If anyone becomes attached to other more than required and forgets the spiritual duties, then entanglement. And Prabhupada sometimes is very strong. He says, in one of the slokas, lecture, he says, there are 4 enemies in the house. Anyone knows the 4 enemies in the house? Why I should speak all the wrong things.
One is, I think, your children, right? Your children, a beautiful wife, your child, your son, as your son who basically is useless, a beautiful wife, a mother who's of bad character, and a father, I can't remember, Prabhuji.
Father in debt.
Her father in
Debt.
debt.
Father in
Debt.
debt. इसमें प्रभुपाद एक लाइन लिखते हैं, भार्या रूपवती शत्रु पुत्र शत्रु अपंडितः. How does it start? I'm not remembering the first 2 lines. Mata. Anyways, all of you have spoken the 4 things.
So, father who is in debt.
I'm just trying to remember the shloka. याद आएगा तो बताता हूँ. रूपवती भार्या शत्रु पुत्र शत्रु अपंडितः. Anyways, okay, so Prabhupada writes how this whole world is governed by the desire to enjoy under the influence of the modes of passion and ignorance. So basically, Prabhupada tries to make this point that it is a great responsibility to enter household life. Household life is better than a sinful life devoid of responsibility. But if in the household life, the husband becomes subordinate to the wife, involvement in materialistic life becomes prominent. That does not mean that the husband can do anything and wife should be under him. No, it is not like that. If the husband is a very dharmic person, then it is natural for wife to serve husband, and she also gets equal advancement in spiritual life. So that is the understanding in the Vedic system. It is not that husband can do anything, but the wife should keep on serving the husband. Okay. He continues. Narad Muni continues what happened later. Saraja Mahishim Rajan Susnatam Ruchirananam Kritswastyanam Triptam Abhyanandat Upagatam.
The queen took her bath and dressed herself nicely with all auspicious garments and ornaments. After taking food and becoming completely satisfied, she returned to the king. Upon seeing her beautifully decorated, attractive face, the king welcomed her with all devotion.
Okay, so now what is happening? Now the dharmic intelligence has come back. He is fixed in the dharmic intelligence. He has become free from all the contaminations of the sins which was there in the mind. Now he is thinking, now I become successful in life. That is the outcome of a sattvic life. Sattvam sukhe sanjayati. It gives happiness. It gives knowledge. Sattvat sanjayate jnanam. So this dharmic intelligence gives happiness and knowledge and piety. So therefore he is very happy. So Prabhupada writes how in the family affairs, the wife should decorate herself nicely and wonderful things, Prabhupada writes. When a person is too anxious about family affairs, he cannot discharge his family duties nicely. A wife is therefore supposed to be an inspiration and should keep the husband's intelligence in good order so that they can combinedly prosecute the affairs of family life without impediment. We have seen in many purports in wherever such types of verses come. Prabhupada gives a very wonderful purport about a nice family life. What's the role of a husband? What's the role of the wife? How wife and husband, they are always supporting each other, helping each other in Krishna consciousness. Here also Prabhupada is making such a brilliant statement. When a person is too much disturbed because of handling so many affairs in the outside world, it's so very difficult to be peaceful. So why? By her sweet words, by feeding her nicely, she pacifies the husband so that he can focus on spiritual life better. That's how it is. Okay, so now. Toyopagooda parirabdha kandharo raho mantrair apakrishta chetana nakalaramho bubude duratyayam diva nisheti pramada parigraha.
Queen
Queen
Puranjani
Papuranjani embraced
blessed
the king, and the king also responded by embracing her shoulders. In this way, in a solitary place, they enjoyed joking words. Thus, King Puranjana became very much captivated by his beautiful wife and deviated from his good sense. He forgot that the passing of days and nights meant that his span of life was being reduced without profit.
That's how the materialistic person doesn't even realize how his time is passing by. Sundar Goswami gives a very wonderful example in the 10th canto. In the rainy season, when the rivers are overflowing, the small ditches, they get connected to the river and they get filled with the waters. Some fishes from the river, they start staying in that ditch. Rainy season is over. Fishes are enjoying their life. In due course of time, summer comes. Water is decreasing. And this foolish fish is not realizing that his time is getting over in due course of time. Days are remaining. Naiva vidvanshiyamanam jalam gad jalecharaha yathayu anvaham shayyam nara mudha kutumbinaha. Similarly, nara mudha kutumbinaha, foolish householder doesn't realize how his time is passing. That is the case of Puranjan here. He forgot that the passing of days and night meant that his span of life is reduced without profit. कुछ भी फायदा नहीं हो रहा है. Only फायदा is time is passing by. That's it. Because generally, Prabhupada writes, generally, a householder does not take the passing of days and nights seriously. ठीक है, दिन आ रहे हैं जा रहे हैं, क्या फर्क पड़ रहा है? Because he can't make the connection that every passing day and night is bringing him closer to death. Anyone remembers any sloka in connection to this? With every passing day and night, with every rising and setting of the sun.
आयुर्हरति वा पुंसाम्.
पूरा बताइए.
पूरा.
आयुर्हरति.
समुद्यन. Sorry.
आयुर्हरति वैकुंठम. आयुर्हरति वैकुंठम.
ठीक है, चलिए कोई बात नहीं. पहला वाला तो याद है. उद्यम अस्तंचयन्नसो तस्यर्ते अक्षणौ नीतौ उत्तम श्लोक वार्तया. But a person who is a devotee of the Lord, his life is not coming to an end. He is coming to an eternal life. But a householder doesn't even care. क्या फर्क पड़ रहा है, दिन गए रात गए, ठीक है, एक और दिन आएगा. A man in ignorance does not know that when sun rises early in the morning, it begins to take away the balance of his life. Thus, day after day, the span of one's life is reduced, and forgetting the duty of human life, the foolish man simply remains in the company of his wife and enjoys her. This is called as apakrishta chetana, degraded consciousness. Degraded consciousness means thinking of children, wife, and money. How to enjoy, how to take care of the children, make them materialists, make them well-established people in the material world, and enjoy life. Just like Prabhupada went to one life member, and he was a very gentle person. He was introducing everyone. She's my wife, my son, and my grandson, and my granddaughter. And then he went inside for something for a few minutes, and then Prabhupada said, and this is my sex life. That's how dharmic people, they don't understand that their life is decreasing. They're not doing anything sinful, but still they don't understand that death is coming very soon. Okay. And then Prabhupada writes, one should not waste his time, otherwise shrama eva hi kevalam. Without devotional service, activity of life becomes simply a waste of time. Shrama eva hi kevalam. Shayana unnadda mado mahamana maharatalpe mahishi bhujopadhi tameva viro manute paramyata tam bhi bhutona nijam param chayat. Tamo vibhuto nanijam param chayat. Sorry.
In this way,
increasingly
increasingly
overwhelmed by
over,
illusion, King Puranjana, although advanced in consciousness, remained always lying down with his head on the pillow of his wife's arms. In this way, he considered woman to be his ultimate life and soul. Becoming thus overwhelmed by the mode of ignorance, he could not understand the meaning of self-realization of his self or of the Supreme Personality of God.
Yeah.
So, Prabhuji, this means that you should not be controlled by your intelligence.
Dharmic intelligence.
You should not be controlled by your dharmic
We
intelligence.
should be controlled by our dharmic intelligence, but that dharmic intelligence should not make us oblivious of our this param dharma, savai pumsam paro dharma. There is a dharma of this world, but there is dharma of other world also. Para dharma, apara dharma. So this dharmic intelligence is material contaminated dharmic intelligence. This will focus and push a person to enjoy piously. It will not take one to Krishna. That is what most of the people in the world, not most, many people in the at least world, they are trying to do. Follow religion to enjoy life. They're not following religion to serve God, to get liberated from the cycle of birth and death. That is the problem. So we are supposed to serve God by our, of course, we have to follow dharmic, we have to do dharma only, we have to do pious activities only, we can never do sinful activity, but our pious activity should take us to Krishna. Nehayat karma dharmaya na viragaya kalpate na tirtha pada sevaya jivan napi mritopisa. If our karma doesn't lead to dharma, if our dharma doesn't lead to vairagya, if our vairagya doesn't lead to bhakti, it is all shrama eva kevalam. Jivan napi mritopisa. It is as good as dead only. So that is what is the understanding. Okay.
Thank you, Prabhu.
So in this way, Puranjan, he was completely overwhelmed by illusion, enjoying with his wife, not realizing his time is reducing. Because of sex life, he thought she was ultimate. He thought that association with his wife was the goal of life. He did not consider himself or anyone else because he was defeated by ignorance. What is the spiritual meaning behind this? Because of association with dharma represented by his wife, he became attached to dharma. Some people, they are attached to dharmic activities. पुण्य करो, लोगों का भला करो, give charity, help poor, feed people, open schools, but they forget the goal of life, that is liberation or bhakti. वो भूल जाते हैं. That is what is happening with Puranjan. They forget that the goal of life, liberation, that is also there. He did not know himself as Jiva. He did not know the Lord. He is not understanding I am part and parcel of the Lord. I am supposed to serve the Lord. So therefore, he is engrossed in dharma. Aajkal jo, now it is it is taking a very strong hold even in devotee community. This Hindutva, Sanatani thoughts, so-called dharmic thoughts. It is okay to follow dharma, but unfortunately, we are compromising sometimes our devotional activities. So that is how we have to be really careful. We are losing the best for the good. Dharma is good, but that it is not the best thing. We have to do all the dharmic activities, but our dharma should not take us away from our best activity, that is devotional service. And that is what is happening by Puranjan, done by Puranjan. He is absorbed in dharma, forgetting the goal of life, doing charity, helping people. That's it. He was engrossed in pious acts. That means he slept on a valuable bed. That means engrossed in pious acts. He made a pillow of his wife's arms. He was covered by ignorance. तयेवं रममाणस्य काम कश्मलचेतसः क्षणार्धम् इव राजेन्द्र व्यतिक्रान्तं नवं वयः.
My dear King, Prachanaparki, in this way, King Puranjana, with his heart full of lust and sinful reactions, began to enjoy sex with his wife. And in this way, there is new life and the youth expired in of a moment.
He doesn't realize the time is passing by. We didn't take the purport of this. In the second verse purport, Prabhupada writes how the human form of life is very valuable. Association of saintly people, they open the gates to liberation. Association with sense gratification opens the gate to hell. So one should be very, very careful. Now, this Puranjana, he is not realizing how his time is passed by. His heart full of lust, enjoying, not understanding that his time is passing by, completely affected by the lust. His time passed by. His youth expired in half a moment. Kshanardham iva Rajendra. Edhana yovana putra parijana ite kiyache parati tire. Kamala dala jala jivana talamala bhajaho haripada nitire. That's how our life is like a droplet on the lotus leaf. When it will drop, nobody knows. So I should be very careful. In the youth, the time passes by very quickly. So that's how it is very, very important. Okay, Prabhupada writes. He emphasizes about how if one indulges in sex life, indulges in sense gratification in the beginning of his life, they suffer much more. And the span of the youth expires very quickly. One wastes his life simply by committing sinful activities in youth, immediately become disappointed and disillusioned when the brief period of youth is over. After 40, one simply leads a disillusioned life because he has no spiritual knowledge. For such a man, expiration of youth occurs in half a moment. निकल गया समय पता भी नहीं चला. How time passed by. So basically, Prabhupada, in the whole purport, he emphasizes the value of human life, how one should not indulge and waste the human form in sense enjoyment. Next verse. Tasyam ajanayat putran puranjanyam puranjanaha shatanyekadash virat ayushvardham athatyaga.
The great sage Narada then addressed King Prachana Bargiseth, O one whose lifespan is great, Virat. In this way, King Puranjana begot 1,100 sons within the womb of his wife Puranjani. However, in this business, he passed away half of his lifespan.
He begot 1,100 sons, and he also begot 110 daughters. That is what he'll describe in the next verse. He begot 110 daughters and 1,100 sons. So again, Prabhupada in the purport, he describes that people, they just indulge in sex life and produce children, and then they use all the contraceptives and all the other things to avoid progeny. It is all sinful. And Prabhupada focuses on Garbhadhan and how the man in good consciousness, when beget children, they are pious and they are saintly, otherwise they are attracting sinful souls. All this Prabhupada writes. So, who are the sons and who are the daughters? Chakravarti Thakur writes, he had daughters. Who are the daughters? Shame, enthusiasm, thoughtfulness. These are the daughters of Dharma. Any dharmic person will have such qualities. Enthusiasm, thoughtful, shame, shyness. And he will have sons also. The number of sons was more because it was considered proper in household life to have more sons. Daughters had good qualities because of their previous pious acts. Because they were his daughters, they are called as Pauranjanyaha. Okay. ठीक है. Okay, so I think we'll stop here. We'll continue from verse number 8. how this family of Puranjan is growing. These daughters and the sons are getting married, and then the family will grow, and ultimately, in due course of time, he will become old. Okay, so we'll stop here. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Hare
Shantara
Krishna.
Srimad Bhagvatam
Hare
ki jai.
Jai.
Shri Prabhupada ki jai.
Hare Krishna. Thank you,
Jai.
Prabhuji.